Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and documentary purposes based on public federal court testimony and investigative reporting. Was Britney Spears' 2007 meltdown really about her divorce? Or did something happen with Diddy that pushed her over the edge? That's the question everyone's suddenly asking again. A bombshell courtroom revelation just dragged Britney's name into one of the biggest celebrity trials in years. And what's emerging might rewrite everything we thought we knew about that infamous night in Las Vegas, the VMAs disaster that followed, and the dark machinery behind pop culture's most shocking downfall. It's not just about Diddy anymore. It's about a hidden connection between him, Cassie, and Britney that's been buried. Until now, Las Vegas, September 8th, 2007. It was supposed to be a celebration, Cassie Ventura's 21st birthday bash at Pure Nightclub, hosted by none other than Sean Diddy Combs. The city was electric, pulsing with celebrity energy. Paris Hilton floated from table to table. Music producer Dallas Austin lingered near the velvet ropes. But the real head-turner was Britney Spears. She wasn't there to perform. She wasn't there to pose for press. Britney showed up that night as a guest, but left as something far more tragic. Photos from that evening show Britney with Diddy and Cassie, her face obscured behind sunglasses despite being indoors, her expression vacant, her posture off. Reports later described her as glassy-eyed, clinging to Diddy, barely coherent. That was just hours before she took the stage at the MTV Video Music Awards in one of the most disastrous performances of her life. And now Cassie is testifying, in court, that Britney was invited by Diddy himself, confirming she was there at that very party the night before everything came crashing down. What happened that night? Well, according to multiple insiders, Diddy didn't keep it quiet. For years, behind closed doors, he allegedly bragged about hooking up with Britney Spears at that party. Told it like a joke, a conquest, something to laugh about. He reportedly called her crazy in bed and said she was out of control. For him, it was a power move, another notch in his belt. For Britney, it may have been something else entirely. Something she never wanted public. People in the music industry whispered about it. Some say it was an open secret. But no one dared say it out loud. Not back then. Diddy was untouchable, a kingmaker. And Britney? She was already unraveling in the public eye and no one wanted to connect the dots. But now, the dots are connecting themselves. The next night, just one day later, Britney Spears stepped onto the stage at the VMAs to debut her comeback single, Gimme More. It was supposed to be her big return, her resurrection. Instead, it was a complete train wreck. She stumbled through her choreography, lip-synced offbeat, looked lost, not like a superstar, but like someone who had no idea where she was or why she was there. The crowd was confused. The internet exploded. The critics pounced. It wasn't just a flop, it was an implosion. People called it the end of her career. Years later, Britney revealed in her memoir that she hadn't slept the night before, that she had a panic attack backstage, that she had begged not to go on. She wrote, "I knew it was going to be bad. I was a mess." But even in her own words, something is missing, something deeper. Because whatever happened that night in Vegas, it wasn't just anxiety. The crash was too hard, too fast. And now, with the latest testimony from Cassie, the pieces we didn't know were missing are starting to fall into place. It all might have stayed buried, another blurry Hollywood rumor, until Cassie Ventura broke her silence in the courtroom. Under oath, Cassie confirmed that Britney Spears was at her 21st birthday party that night. She also confirmed who invited her, Diddy. Alongside Dallas Austin, Cassie's former boyfriend and the producer who first discovered her. That same night, according to Cassie, was when everything began. Not just a party, but a nightmare. She told the court that what started as a mentorship from Diddy spiraled into something far more disturbing. He allegedly kissed her that night in Vegas, publicly, in front of people she knew, while she was still involved with Dallas. And from that moment, the control began. Cassie described years of manipulation, coercion, and abuse, claims backed by assistants, stylists, and insiders who witnessed the bruises, the fear, the unraveling. But buried in that timeline is Britney Spears. What was Britney doing there on that exact night? Caught in the orbit of a man now facing federal charges for trafficking, racketeering, and forcing women into freak-off style encounters while high-powered industry guests watched? That's not just a party anymore. That's ground zero. This is where things get even darker, because it's not just about Diddy. It's about who was working behind the scenes of both his empire and Britney's collapse. Enter TriStar Sports and Entertainment. If you're a Britney fan, that name already raises alarms. TriStar, led by Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill, allegedly orchestrated and managed Britney's conservatorship, the legal trap that stripped her of control over her own life for over a decade. But guess who else was a client of TriStar? Diddy. In fact, Lou Taylor has known Diddy since the early 90s when she worked at Uptown Records and he was just an intern. Over time, she built her firm and Diddy became one of her most powerful clients. Britney, meanwhile, was reportedly forced into working with TriStar just before her conservatorship was locked in, a move that many fans believe was orchestrated behind closed doors. Cassie's testimony and subsequent lawsuits now claim that Robin Greenhill, the same Robin who oversaw Britney's affairs during her conservatorship, was involved in funneling hush money to victims of Diddy's alleged abuse. So now we have a triangle: Britney, Diddy, TriStar, all tied together through timing, power, and silence. Let's put the puzzle pieces on the table. September 8th, 2007. Britney attends Diddy's party looking dazed and fragile. September 9th, 2007. She implodes at the VMAs in front of millions. October 2007. She loses custody of her two young sons. By early 2008, she's institutionalized and placed under a court-ordered conservatorship that lasts 13 years. Now rewind and ask, what if the chain reaction didn't start with her shaving her head? What if it didn't even start with the custody battle? What if it started at that party? The one where Diddy allegedly bragged about hooking up with her. The one where Cassie says her decade-long nightmare began. The one hosted by a man now being investigated by the feds for trapping women in exactly the kind of toxic, controlled environments Britney would later describe in her own life. The timelines match. The players match. The power structure matches. The trauma matches. And yet, no one connected it until now. The deeper you dig into the Diddy trial, the more you realize this wasn't just about abuse. It was about power and how that power was protected. And if you follow the money, it leads straight into territory that Britney Spears fans have been warning about for years. Let's talk about the receipts. Court filings mention over 300 grand jury subpoenas sent to more than 100 entities. Among them, a wealth management firm connected to the defendant, almost certainly pointing toward TriStar Sports and Entertainment. The very same firm that not only managed Diddy's empire but also oversaw Britney's financial life under the conservatorship. It gets worse. According to whistleblower Alex Vlasov, Britney wasn't just legally trapped, she was watched. He testified that black box security, hired by TriStar, planted audio recording devices in her bedroom, monitored her phone calls, read her text messages, listened in on private conversations with her children. And now Robin Greenhill, who allegedly supervised this Orwellian surveillance, is also named in documents connected to Diddy's payment schemes. These are not separate scandals anymore. They're overlapping systems of control built on fear, silence, and loyalty to powerful men. And Britney? She was right in the middle of it. Now we have to ask the question that no one in mainstream media seems brave enough to raise. Was Britney Spears a victim of something far more calculated than we ever imagined? Everything we've been told about her downfall, that it was about fame, pressure, motherhood, addiction, might only be part of the story. What if that night in Vegas wasn't just a party gone wrong, but the spark that lit the fire? Cassie says her abuse began that same night. Diddy allegedly brags that he hooked up with Britney, a woman clearly in no condition to make clear decisions. Photos show her unsteady, almost hollow. Then she falls apart in front of the world. Days later, the courts take away her children. Weeks later, the conservatorship begins. And behind the curtain, TriStar was there, managing both Britney and Diddy. It's too many coincidences, too many shadows, too much silence. And through it all, Britney never once addressed Diddy publicly, not in interviews, not in court, not even in her memoir. She skips that night entirely. Maybe it's because nothing happened, or maybe because something did, and she never felt safe enough to say it. Now, with Diddy finally facing justice, those whispers are turning into screams. Britney Spears survived more than we'll ever fully understand. Her resilience in the face of media humiliation, legal control, and personal trauma is already the stuff of legend. But if what's coming out now is true, if that night with Diddy was more than just a chaotic party, then we've all missed a crucial piece of her story. This isn't just about salacious headlines. It's about a culture that protected the powerful while sacrificing the vulnerable. It's about an industry that buried the truth until now. Because while Diddy sits in a federal detention center awaiting trial, the web is unraveling. Cassie's bravery is breaking open doors that were slammed shut for decades. And in the shadows of that testimony, Britney's name echoes louder than ever. Maybe she wasn't just spiraling. Maybe she was pushed. And if that's the case, then this trial isn't just about holding one man accountable. It's about revisiting everything we thought we knew about how power, silence, and abuse operate in Hollywood's elite circles. We may never know exactly what happened that night in Vegas, but now, at least, we're asking the right questions. So, now it's your turn. What do you think happened that night? Was Britney just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was she a casualty of something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe for more updates because this story is far from over. The trial resumes soon, and what's coming next might change everything.